now recording our first podcast.
Right on. 8 years it's been. I've been talking about doing this for a really long time, and I'm finally very excited to get started with you, Pierre.
All right. Sena as well. I mean, it's a great opportunity. For me, it's been like a good 26 years in the making. So, I'm waiting a little bit longer than you.
That's great. Well, you're only as young as you are today, so it's always a good time to get started. I actually listen to a lot of podcasts, listen to a lot of radio. So for me, this is an exciting experience just to get out and try to give back to the podcast community because I know it's huge right now. Radio is dead. Nobody listens to terrestrial radio anymore. And to go out there and try to get on, on satellite radio is a little bit different, especially if you don't have a radio career.
Yeah. Radio is not necessarily dead; it's just more so changed forms into like the podcast community. So So now we're podcast stars, radio stars. I feel famous right now. I feel like I'm reaching the world every syllable at a time. Like this is the changing point.
Well, you're at least famous in this group, so.
Yeah, Army of Two.
Yeah,
there's a game after that apparently, right?
Hey, now we have our own fan club.
Totally.
The thing about that, though, is it's legitimized now by sponsors, and that's why you can't really take too much away from the podcast community. Yeah, it's not broadcasted by a huge organization like Clear Vision or something like that. At least it's not being. What is it?
Walmart.
Walmart. Yeah, it's not. It doesn't have this big corporate machine behind it, but it has corporate sponsors. You have Joe Rogan being sponsored by Ting and a bunch of other really great organizations. I know I only said one, but
I'm realizing right now that when you get this audio, for whoever's listening, you may hear some like ruffling in the background. I'm rolling a cigarette, so I forgot to do this in advance.
Nice.
So this is a pre-warning on that.
Yeah, that's how the hipsters do it back in the city. We roll our own cigarettes. We don't buy that garbage from.
Not a slave to the conformity of the mass production, right?
I like ill-formed cigarettes. I can't roll. That's one thing I can't do.
Really? Why have you never learned to roll? I would imagine, like in your life you've traveled, all the people you've met, you were in the military. You never rolled your own figs. You never rolled your own faggot in Iraq.
Well, now to that I have a couple of things to say. One, yes, I can technically roll. It just isn't very pretty. Can you smoke it? Yes. Is it fun to look at? Do you want to tell your friends about it when you're at a party and you're all going to smoke together? It's not like I want to sit down and impress my friends. But with that being said, you use a computer every day. Can you type properly?
Can I pipe?
Yeah, I mean, do you sit there and peck away with one fingers like Hunter S. Thompson, or do you actually know how to type?
I actually know how to type. Actually, I'm a certified secretary. Like, I was actually trained in business administration, oddly enough.
Oh, man, I would love to see a picture of that. Any office with you in a suit and tie, you would really blow my mind, man.
Oh, yeah. I was totally trying to do computer technology. But for some reason that class was full and ended up being like a certified secretary. Yeah. So it was good networking. You know what I mean? I'm like a Rosetta Stone. No, not Rosetta Stone. What was it? What was that typing program?
Oh God! Don't use Rosetta Stone because it's garbage. Have you ever actually used Rosetta Stone?
Yeah, I have it. I'm going to say Mavis Beacon. That's when I'm going to talk about the type of the black lady to taught you how to type.
Exactly.
I work with that. Yeah.
It's so funny that you say that. I was actually, again, going back to the podcast. I was just listening to Joe Rogan, he was talking about how he used Mavis Beacon to learn how to type, and how it was a little racing game, and you would do that. I actually took typing in high school, and that's how I learned. I got kicked out, but I managed to learn how to type before I got kicked out. So, all's well.
I dig it.
Yeah. So the Shanghai experience must be pretty big. I hear that the comedy scene is really big out there. I hear that there's a lot of podcasts coming out of China nowadays. Do you know anything about that? What's going on over there?
In the podcast scene, no. I listen to like the educational podcasts, like philosophy and like Chinese stuff that will make me improve my Chinese, stuff like that. But for the most part, like Chinese pod and like other funny stuff. But in the comedy scene, I do the comedy thing, but it's not necessarily a comedic podcast per se. More so just events you go to and enjoy the comedy, that kind of stuff.
Right. It's like open mic nights and stuff like that, right?
Definitely. Yeah. And that's more my forte.
Yeah, it's huge. Ari Shaffir just was over there. They have a lot of, what do you call that? Almost like open source comedy scene going on over there.
Yeah, very grassroots. It's very simple. Just, for a bar to get drinks for free, stuff like that. So
Right.
I'm curious, you know so much about Shanghai. What can you teach me about Hong Kong? What's happening out there in the HK style?
Well, I can tell you one thing. They're completely different worlds. And one of the biggest concerns that I have is the lack of street food here.
It's so clean.
Yeah.
It's so clean, there's
really
no food
is.
in the street. Wow.
The only street food here is some very light. It's all the same basically. They have some fried stuff, but it's basically a lot of fish balls and shui mai and beef intestines. Basically, that's pretty much the range of street food here. You don't have the same extravagant experience of street food as you do in China. Not that it's any better, or obviously it's significantly less safe, but you have a selection there. You can eat your cow roe and your barbecues and.
That's really amazing. I didn't know that like the pollution got that bad out there. You have fish with balls. I never heard of fish with balls before.
The fish balls are huge here because they make them like curry fish balls. They're pretty amazing. But it's not so much the pollution. It's more so the people. If you think about it, Hong Kong, the people in Hong Kong think of mainlanders as almost like peasants. If you would think about, the Renaissance periods, or when there were kings and empires, it's very similar to that. They have this royal mentality, and they're just not very impressed by the mainlanders.
Yeah, I've seen it. Like the whole Western influence, like has like a different personality. And the different people is the different set, you know what I mean? But they're still, people. But yeah.
Of course, everybody's people, and that's the problem that we face today, because everyone is kind of stuck in this consumerism, saving face, vain mentality that we're all trying to. It's a rat race. We're all trying to get further, faster, independently instead of together, and that's a problem. There's no more communities.
Define that. What do you mean no communities?
Well, so, in Stone Age, if you will, I couldn't give you a better reference than that. But, we as human beings were used to growing up in tribes. That's why I don't remember the book, but they were making a reference to trying to keep a Rolodex in your mind of 150 people, because that's the maximum amount of individual people that you can frame in your mind of actually remembering.
Yeah, you mentioned that before. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we grew up in these tribes, and we used to grow up, and even think back in the 40s, when your grandparents were in the States, and they're talking about the community that they live in. Everybody knew everybody. The cities were really small. You would tell, hey, I know John down the road, or I know Susan, or Jeffrey, or whatever the hell his name is. Luckily enough, we don't only have John, Susan, and Jeffrey anymore, but we've diversified. But, you would know, it would teach you about the crime, and you would know who is a good person, who is a bad person, and it would kind of help develop your society. You would say, hey, this is okay to do because this group of people have not even necessarily mutually, but they've came to the understanding, or they've came to the acknowledgement that everyone is kind of okay with this one thing, so we can do things this way. Whereas, in the opposite side, you can see where, hey, these people, or this particular group, or the set of people inside of this village or this group don't like this other thing, and we probably shouldn't do that. So that's where these social norms and these taboos started to kind of develop.
Speaking of social norms, this is a curveball of a subject. I was listening to NPR. I listened to NPR, and they were talking about the whole Gaza Strip and stuff like that, and what's happened with Palestine and Israel, right? Okay. And I was also listening to TYT, the Young Turk Network on YouTube, and they were talking about it, and they had a great analogy. And I like to define some words, like how do you define the word terrorism?
Me personally, I think that terrorism is any act that jeopardizes the sovereignty of another nation or the national security of a nation or a group of peoples, because not every group of peoples has their own nation.
Okay. Well, like one common definition of it is like basically like the act of killing civilians. You know what I mean? When you kill civilians, that's like terrorism. You know what I mean? So like in the name of like war, every country's a terrorist. Simply put, you know what I mean?
Sure, we're all colonizers and warmongers, and that's how we develop.
One thing I came like to learn about a little bit more is like the whole Palestinians in Gaza, right? Like I come to understand recently that it's like they're a prison. They're a prison, like the Gaza Strip. These people like in prison there, and I didn't understand how they were like being blockaded, and they can't leave nor have stuff come in, and the whole tunnels and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And then I've seen the recent news that like they're called terrorists as they attack Israel. But then again, like the death rate is like 300 to 1 plus. You know what I'm saying? So like so many more Palestinians are dying versus the few Israelites that are happening in the scene. I'm like, and I've thought it's unique. I just want to see if it's possible to fix this conflict. I don't understand how bad it is.